Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Marcus Carey Perspective on this Sunday night. And as promised, tonight's show is going to be a little bit different than the other shows. Rather than just talking about the news of the day, I'm going to be talking about the news of the week. And my whole purpose here is to go through some things that you've probably seen in the news. And if you're on Facebook or on social media or anywhere else, there's an awful lot of stuff out there. It comes at you pretty fast. And I see a lot of people saying things that just aren't true. I don't know exactly what their source is because typically they don't give you a source. But when they do, the source tends to be some of the legacy media, some of the left-wing media, some of the people who literally have no interest in the truth. They're propagandists. And we're going to do a little bit of that tonight, talk about some of the propaganda that's out there. And I'm going to give you what they call the receipts. The receipts are the things that you're going to need to have in order to talk with your coworkers, talk with your family, talk with people at church, at the ball games, when the conversation comes up and somebody throws some of this garbage at you, rather than just standing there and say, well, that's not true. You're going to have the facts. Now, I want to just bring you up to date on this. A few weeks delayed in getting this podcast up and going, predominantly because I came down with RSV, and it's kind of like a bad cold. Went to the doctor. Doctor said, you'll live through it. You'll get over it. It'll be fine. You're in good shape otherwise. You don't have any comorbidities. So I went ahead and went through it. It took about 10 days, but there's been a lingering cough. And called the doctor, did some research on my own because we all need to know that it's out there and you can find it. So it looks like the cough from an RSV viral infection, which you can pick up anywhere. You can pick it up in a restaurant or on a grocery cart or any place. And it's not the boogeyman that we talked about with COVID. It's survivable and not really all that. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, nobody likes to have a cold. Nobody likes to have the sniffles. Nobody likes to be coughing, have a sore throat, any of those things. So long story short, we are on the back end of that. And I just had this cough. So some of the shows that I did, the first couple, admittedly, you can tell by the camera angle tonight. Tell by the little watermark down here that says Rumble. We've changed some things, changed some lighting, changed some microphones, some monitors. I'm trying to get this show up to be a good quality show, not just for the entertainment value, but because I'm going to bring you information that you can use. So as the new week starts, and I'm sure you're going to be inundated with just tons of more information and news coming at you from all angles, but you're going to also encounter what I encounter every day, and that is people that are just propagandizing. And you got to ask why, and we're going to answer that question why here in just a minute. But I want to take you here, talk with you a little bit about all the criticism that's been leveled against Elon Musk. You know, Elon Musk was the darling of the country. I mean, Tesla was the Green New Deal. That was their dream car, right? An electric car. And Tesla charging stations and SpaceX, just this brilliant mind with a penchant for being able to make things happen, and the richest man in the world, an American citizen by choice. He was the darling of the left and a darling of the right. And so what happened? All of a sudden, the left hates him. They've actually put out death threats. There's a hit out on him and his family. Why? What's that all about? Before we go any further, let me answer a question about Elon Musk. I have probably said in private conversations, I don't believe I've ever said publicly, I probably said that when SpaceX, the new shot to the International Space Station that went up to rescue the astronauts that were only supposed to be there for a week or two, and they've been there for like 6 months, that Biden had abandoned them. And there was no effort made to get them. and that only when Trump got into office and Elon Musk came on the scene did we head up to outer space to bring these people home. If you hear that, that's not true. The Biden administration did make some moves toward going and getting them, but something failed in that project. It failed. And so they turned to Elon Musk and solicited his help to do it. And the launch just a couple days ago, and the docking that took place just last night, and the great news stories that are coming out of this rescue mission, the truth is it was started under Biden, but it involved Elon Musk. So it's a continuation of a program that started before Donald Trump was president. Elon Musk was the brains behind it. They made it. They docked successfully. But I'm here to tell you the truth. So don't fall for the propaganda that's coming from our side either. But the truth is enough. And the truth as it relates to some of this is pretty interesting. For example, people are saying that Elon Musk is some sort of oligarch. The guy is doing it for free. He's assembled a great team. And the news says Elon Musk has been the most vocal about the potential savings of Doge. And by that, what we mean is, what is Doge doing? They're looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. He is predicting $2 trillion in reductions by slashing redundant agencies, workforce cuts, and it's an ambitious goal rather than a firm audit-based estimate at this point. But why is it just a firm goal? And the answer is because they've been thwarted. They've had judges, and they've had courts, they've had congressmen, they've had senators trying to stand in his way. Well, you might ask yourself, well, why would the people who are the ones we elected to office, why would they possibly want to be opposed to this audit? Why would they oppose Doge? When people tell you all these things about Elon Musk and they're cutting jobs and all this stuff, we're going to get into all the things, but ask yourself, what would be the motivation for Democrats and others to oppose what Musk is doing? And the answer is he's getting down into the bowels of the system. And by that, what I mean is he's opening up the books that haven't been opened 50 or 100 years. He's not opening the books, but he's conducting an audit. Where'd this money go? And what might we find if we look? Well, one of the things they might find when they look is insider trading. Truth is, Congress isn't above insider trading laws. And even though there have been other acts passed to reduce insider trading by members of Congress, they are still doing it and making millions. Ever wonder why congressmen that are making under $200,000 a year become multimillionaires? Any wonder why? Any wonder why at all? Well, the answer is pretty simple. They've got something to hide. Now, it's not just the current Congress and the current stuff they're up to, but they've been at this for a long, long time. I don't know if you remember the Rubbergate. Do you remember the Rubbergate controversy? Well, you'll remember that the U.S. House checking account was stopped in 1992 following a House banking scandal that broke earlier that year, dubbed Rubbergate, or the check kiting scandal. It revealed that the House Bank, a unique financial institution and a clearinghouse operated by the Sergeant at Arms, allowed members of the House of Representatives to overdraw their checking accounts without penalties. Unlike commercial banks, the House Bank honored overdrafts. covering them with no fees or interest, essentially providing interest-free loans secured only by the members' future paychecks. They've been at it a long time. It is institutionalized. And by institutionalized, what I mean is it is not just a few congressmen, a few senators engaged in this conduct. This is conduct that is very widespread. Now, they're not just standing up in Congress and the Senate and opposing it. Their motivations are very clear. They've been playing with the money. They've been writing checks that were no good. They've been making millions of dollars on insider trading, the same kind of thing that Martha Stewart went to prison for. They don't want all this coming out. They don't want to lose these jobs. Have you ever seen this group of weirdos? There's likely not too many jobs in this country that they could get unless it was through their political connections. You know, they leave and they become lobbyists, or they go to a think tank, or they go to work in an industry that they regulated. They make money while they're there, insider trading. For years, they wrote checks that never bounced. Not only are they protesting, sitting on their hands, clapping at perpetual war, but they've mobilized their little terrorist units. They've mobilized Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and other groups to go out and protest. Now, there's a reason for that. Most people who are not involved in politics see the show. You buy a ticket, you go to the theater, there's a show being put on. But what's going on behind the curtain? What's going on backstage? What's going on with the roadies and the props and the costumes and the microphones and the sound system and the lighting, and then the business end? How much are they going to get paid? When are they going to get paid? Who gets how much from the door? What do they need in the way of food? So much more is going on behind the scenes that you don't see when you go and enjoy a show. Most people that are not involved in politics see the show. They don't see what's behind the scenes. And what that means is it's dirty business. And it's a dirty business that people who are dirty understand and know how to use and manipulate. But it's the kind of dirty business they don't want aired. When you see a protest at Trump Tower, when you see a protest outside of a Tesla dealer, when you see a protest on a street corner somewhere, and people show up with ready-made signs, they've all got them. And some of them are with Sharpies, but they're already made. And they're gathered there, 100 of them, 50 of them, whatever it takes to make it look like a lot of people on a camera. The message you get on the show side of that is, oh my goodness, the people of this country are upset. The people of this country are protesting. The people of this country are angry. Things aren't going right. Oh my goodness, we're in chaos. I don't know how many people had tell me this week, well, Trump and Musk are creating chaos. No, they're not. Look somebody right in the eye and say, no, they're not. The chaos you see is being created by the wokesters, the people in power in Congress, in the Democrat Party. They're the people behind the scenes. They're hiring people. They bus them in and drop them off a couple blocks away. They give them all signs when they get out. They tell them what the chant is of the day. They tell them where to go. They raise money to get them out of jail if they're charged with trespassing or any other minor crime associated with the protest. That's what's going on behind the scenes. How do we know that? Well, in part we know that because Musk did an audit of USAID, USAID. This is an organization that was originally set up to fund foreign aid to help impoverished countries. It's money that is now going to organizations like Black Lives Matter, going to organizations like Black Lives Matter. Why? How? Did you see where John Podesta got like $32 billion right before Trump left office? He deposited it in banks. At this point, Musk and Doge have determined there's no receipts, no expenditures, no invoices, just money went into those banks. And so through their work, they know they can't get those records from banks in Zurich, right? Swiss banks. Where'd that money come from? What account was it deposited in? Whose account is that? Where did they spend it? They're not going to get that information. But what they were able to do is audit other public groups like Black Lives Matter, who are required to report their receipts and expenditures. And they found out that within just a couple of days of a big deposit from John Podesta's group being placed in this foreign bank, Black Lives Matter recorded a receipt that appears to come from the same bank just a couple days later. Is that a smoking gun? No. But is it reason to go forward and investigate further? Yes. So when someone tells you that Doge is just monkeying around in the records, they're just destroying everything, they're creating chaos, they're ferreting out corruption. And by ferreting out corruption, they're going to end the chaos. And the way they're going to end the chaos is they're going to catch some people who are crooks, and they're going to perp walk them out of their offices, and they're going to put them on trial, and they're going to put them in jail. And I've seen these people. I've represented some pretty hard guys in my life. I know what it's like for a guy to say, I'll never talk. I'll go do my 10 years. I've seen those guys. That's not these guys. These guys in the Congress are wussies. You get them dead to rights. You show them some of this stuff, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to roll over on each other so fast it'll make your head swim. What else have they got to hide? What else is it that's out there that has them worried? Where's this money been going? Who's in charge of it? Who's the person that's going to maybe get them all wrapped up in some sort of legal trouble? Well, this is sickening, but I'm going to tell you about it. Across Europe, there is a huge scandal underway. There's been a huge uptick in human trafficking since 2022. A huge uptick. And much of that human trafficking involves children. And the children are being sold into sex slavery on a global scale. You know, we're not immune from that. We're not sitting here in the United States with no culpability, no chance that we've done anything wrong. You and I haven't. During the Biden administration, anywhere from 32,000 confirmed cases, 85,000 cases where they've lost contact, up to a potential of 291,000 lost minors who came across our border into the United States. Remember when we heard that they were separating families and that children were coming across with their mother and father merely looking for a better way of life. Many of those children are referred to as unaccompanied minors. They were brought over by coyotes, human traffickers, drug traffickers, sent across the border into the United States, encountered by our authorities during the Biden administration, and then released without much in the way of verification where they were going or where they'd end up. I've heard reports that thousands of them were delivered to the same address, and there's nobody there. It is strongly suspected that many of these children were part of the human trafficking trade. They were sold into slavery. They were sold as sex slaves. We took possession of these children. We took custody of these children. And we've lost them. Unwittingly, stupidly, ignorantly, or complicitly. An audit, an exploration by the Department of Justice, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, an investigation by the Trump team could very well expose some knowing participants. And they're running scared. They are scattering. They can't stand the thought of the Epstein files coming out, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. So why are they protesting? Why are they propagandizing? Why are they lying? Because they're on the verge of being exposed. You're not getting the truth from that side. They'll do anything they can to not go down to these kinds of charges. They're cornered animals, and they're vicious. I mentioned in my last podcast, a writer for the Alex Jones show was shot and killed in his parking lot. Another writer was swatted. Fake call to the police that he was holding his wife and children hostage. Had to walk out of his house at 3 o'clock in the morning with his hands up. Loaded guns trained on him. The goal of swatters is to get you shot. It's come out that there is a contract out on Donald Trump's family, on Elon Musk, and on his family. These people are desperate and they're dangerous. And you need to be able to stand up to anybody who spews the lies from these people as if it's truth, who wants you to believe that Donald Trump and Doge are creating chaos, that they're destroying the workforce, they're destroying our federal government, they're destroying democracy, when in reality, the cancer inside of our government is destroying our country. They're going in to get rid of it, to get it out, to cut it out and make sure it never comes back. One of the other big lies that you're going to be told every day is with regard to the war in Ukraine. I was stunned. I thought it was sickening that the Democrats in Congress sat on their hands. And when Donald Trump said, "What would you rather have, peace or 5 more years of war?" they applauded war. Millions of children, young people being slaughtered. They applauded war. Do you know why the war started? You know how it started? Russia amassed a large number of troops along the border with Ukraine, a large number of troops and military equipment. This was in response to concerns they had that we might be coming into Ukraine and making it a part of NATO. But during the negotiations over the German reunification in 1990, following the fall of the Berlin Wall, U.S. Secretary of State James Baker met with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. And in that meeting, Baker assured Gorbachev that if the Soviet Union allowed a unified Germany to remain in NATO, the alliance would not expand 1 inch eastward beyond East Germany. Not 1 inch eastward. And then there was talk about Ukraine being part of NATO. Just a couple years ago, during Biden's administration, when Kamala Harris, in February of 2022, said during a speech she gave in Europe, enough information about the possibility of NATO rallying around Ukraine, U.S. support for Ukraine's sovereignty. And even though many people said that she was not speaking directly about the U.S. inviting Ukraine to join NATO, her words, the place she spoke them in Germany, Ukraine's continued pressure on Europe to do something to bring them under the protections of NATO, appeared to Russia as though we broke our word. And we made a promise. And since that promise, we went around a lot of places in Europe and put in missiles and bases and troops. It's not good to go up against a nuclear superpower and lie to them and make it appear as though the possibility exists that they're going to have NATO on their border. NATO on their border with weapons and missiles. Just ask yourself, how would we feel if they wanted to put missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida? How would we feel if they put missiles in Mexico or in Canada or in Greenland? You see, Ukraine invaded Russia's region of Kursk in August of 24. They've held parts of that territory in the hopes of using them as a bargaining chip in possible peace talks. Putin now claims that Russia is back in control of Ukrainian troops and that Kursk has been isolated. Folks, this Zelensky guy is playing games with us. Maybe he wants NATO. Maybe he just wants billions of dollars in money and military equipment sent to him so he can sit back and watch his country be destroyed, his citizens be murdered. He's censored the media. He's punished, if not outright eliminated, Christians. His most sacred internal secret guard are old Nazis. And he has done everything he can to thwart peace. Think about this. You're losing your country. You're losing your citizens. You're losing your credibility. Peace is at hand. and you do everything you can to destroy it. Is that the way in which a rational person thinks? No, not unless they think they can use what they're doing to force NATO to accept them, which would, no question about it, be all-out war. And all-out war probably means nuclear war. All right. Enough about the motive of the people who are lying to you. Enough about that. Let's talk about the lies that they're telling you right now about how badly Donald Trump's first 60 days has gone. Now, with all due respect, Donald Trump's only been in office since January 20th, February. We're not even 60 days. But in his first 60 days, he's accomplished a lot. First, he has his entire cabinet in place. It's taken months, sometimes more than a few months, for a cabinet to get in place. He has written 200 or so executive orders, in essence, overturning much of what Biden did that hurt our economy. And yet, even though he's been there for less than 60 days, people will tell you that he's bungled it. Inflation's still high. Prices are still high. We're not doing any better. And he's going to attack Social Security, and he's going to destroy your Medicare and Medicaid, and they're trying to scare you, trying to scare senior citizens. They're lies. Absolute lies. How do you know they're lies? Well, let's look at the facts. Newsweek reports there's a notable deceleration in the U.S. inflation rate. According to Truflation, inflation slowed by around 1.3%, below the 1.5% mark at the start of March. Inflation is coming down. Is it gone? No. But it was like 11% at one point during Biden's term. It's down in less than 60 days. It's remarkable. Inflation is not something that's fickle. It's established over a long period of time. Inflation is down in the first 60 days. What other lie are they telling you? They're also telling you that people can't afford homes. Interest rates are too high. They're not coming down. People need to be afraid. They're losing the value of their homes. They're not going to be able to buy a home. The dream of a new home for first-time home buyers has been eaten up by interest rates. A sharp drop in mortgage interest rates finally lit a fire under loan demand. Both current homeowners and potential buyers jumped back into the market after a lackluster showing. Total mortgage application jumped 20%. Mortgage rates were clearly the culprit. They have decreased to 6.7 from 6.88 since the first of the year. And the trends seem to be that the rates are going to continue to drop. Now you'll hear that, well, the stock market's down. I was asked one time by somebody, how do you know when to invest in the stock market? And I'm not giving you stock advice, but how do you know when to invest in the stock market? Well, the old saying is buy low, sell high. Well, how do you know when it's low? Well, it's already low. Well, how do you know when it's at its lowest? The ideal time to buy. I said it's the same way you know how deep a well is. How do you know where the bottom of the stock market is? Same way you know where the bottom of a well is. You drop a rock in and you listen. You wait to hear it bounce. Same thing with the stock market. It goes down. People cash out. Their stocks grow wildly. They've made a lot of money. They've held them for a year. They can get long-term capital gains treatment, or maybe they can convert them. Eventually, when people sell, market goes down. Other things can affect market price. Big investors, anticipating a downturn, can put out arrangements in the market called calls. They can short the market. They can buy stock at a certain price. And if stock is falling because big investors are seen worldwide as having inside knowledge, some special intuition with regard to the stock market, when they play in a big way, stock market falls. They've positioned themselves to take advantage of that fall. Other people follow suit. The market falls. They buy in. The market goes up. That's how they become billionaires. There's a little of that going on. But there's also been a little bit of what I would call trepidation. People were worried that Trump maybe wasn't going to be able to make good on all of his promises. Maybe he wasn't going to be able to bring fuel prices down and food prices down, interest rates down, and inflation down. Well, news broke. Gas prices are down. Lowest since 2021. 4 years. Lowest gas prices in 4 years. In less than 60 days. When people who are investing in the stock market and people who are paying attention around the country, who are looking for indicators of how the economy is doing, they're going to look at fuel prices. They're going to look at interest rates. They're going to look at the inflation rate. They're going to look at these things as evidence of what the economy is doing. And with all the news, all the protests, all the money being spent to propagandize you and lie to you, tell you things that aren't true, in the hope that somehow or another that will turn people against Donald Trump. As if 50 people bust to New York City with store-bought signs are supposed to convince you that they represent the will of the people and that the vote on November 5th didn't represent the will of the people. They're trying to fool you. Now, the will of the people was clearly expressed on November 5th. Donald Trump won the Electoral College vote. He won every swing state. He won the popular vote. And even the Republicans, some of them in Congress, say, I can't get on board with his plan. It's not perfect. It's not everything I demand from a budget reconciliation plan, a continuing resolution. I stand on principle, and by golly, I just can't vote for that. The people of this country know the mess we're in. Donald Trump told them what his plan was. And I've said this to you before. And Donald Trump has said this. J.D. Vance has said this. The Secretary of Commerce has said this. There's a little pain at first. There's a little construction that has to start. By analogy, if you buy a beautiful lot and want to build a house, if you go out while it's under construction, there's a big hole full of water and a pile of mud and gravel and concrete blocks and materials sitting around and equipment, and the ground's all scarred up. That is necessary for you to build the beautiful home of your dreams. The people of this country gave Donald Trump a green light to execute the plan he laid out for us. He laid it out so many times, in so many places. So many people heard it. Nobody thought that he was going to walk into the White House and flip a switch, and it was all going to miraculously cure itself. But we know he never gives up. We know he can accomplish things other people never could accomplish, which makes me laugh when I hear these losers out there suggesting they've got a better plan than Donald Trump. Compare their success to his. But they're lying to you. They're telling you that there's chaos. They're putting fake protests in front of you, as if to say he does not represent the will of the people. Yes, he does. Period. One of the other lies that they tell you is that Donald Trump will take away your Social Security, take away your Medicare, take away your Medicaid. It's scary to older people. I know people that are living exclusively on that little check, not living well. They're struggling. It's a lie. Straight from the White House, it's a lie. Fact check. The Trump administration will not cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid benefits. President Trump himself has said it over and over and over again. Elon Musk didn't say it either. The press is lying. Here's Musk's direct quote. The waste and fraud in entitlement spending, which is most of the federal spending, is entitlements. So that's like the big one to eliminate. That's the sort of $500 billion, maybe 600 to 700 billion a year. $600 or $700 billion a year in waste, fraud, and abuse in our entitlement programs. Do you see what they're talking about? Are you on Social Security? Do you depend on Medicare? Do you depend on Medicaid? Does somebody in your family or someone you love have to get by on that little check every month? Do you know why they talk about Social Security going bankrupt? It was originally set up as a trust fund. But Congress, who wants to be able to write checks that bounce, not have to pay them back, who wants to keep their jobs no matter what, so they can engage in insider trading and become millionaires, who are willing to spend your money, tax money, to protest the plan that you voted for, or that the majority of the people in this country voted for, to right this ship of state, to weed out the waste, fraud, and abuse, to drain the swamp, to get rid of the corruption, to make America great again. The people who voted for that are being shouted down and called names. And worse, they're being put on hit lists and they're being swatted. And it's all lies. It's all lies. You can use any one of the sites or the quotes that I put up tonight. I'll be glad to send them to you if you ask. I want you to be armed with the truth. I don't want to just tell you the truth, have you rely on me. I told you the other day I was a lawyer. I can't make a representation to a court or a client if I don't have something to back it up, if it's not true. But these fools on the other side don't have that same ethical standard, and they don't have that same commitment to you. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the viewership of the legacy media just doesn't drop off to zero and they have to go out of business. We have a president, and he has a team that are actively trying to find a way to get Social Security back on a solid footing. And it's going broke because Congress borrowed the money out of it and spent it. Let me just tell you what would happen if a lawyer did that. And there have been lawyers that do that. There have been lawyers who have a gambling problem, a debt problem, a drinking problem, a drug problem. And through legitimate means, they come into possession of a lot of money that belongs to their client. Maybe their client died and they're managing the estate, and they're managing the estate account, and there's lots of money in there. Or maybe there was a big settlement that came in and the money's sitting in their account waiting to be dispersed to pay medical bills and court reporters and pay the client. And they look at that money and they look at their predicament and they say, I'm going to borrow some of that money and then lie to the people it's owed to and tell them to wait. There's some excuse. I'll make up something. Just give me a couple months. Just, I know if I go back over to that casino, I can make all of it back what I've lost. I can make it back, and then I can pay my client. I'll steal from my client, which is criminal, unethical, should never be tolerated. I'm going to steal from my client, use the money for my own purposes, and then I'll pay it back. That's what Congress did to your Social Security. They took your Social Security money, the money you paid in, I paid in, the huge fund that was supposed to sustain us, that by some economists' computations, if it had been properly invested, there'd be no little bitty Social Security checks. Everybody would be doing just fine. But they stole your money, and they didn't pay it back. When you look at the national debt, part of that national debt is to us. It's part of it is to the Social Security Trust Fund. Donald Trump clearly says, we're not going to hurt your Social Security benefits. We're not going to hurt your Medicare. We're not going to hurt your Medicaid. We're trying to find the waste, fraud, and the abuse so that we can salvage the Medicare program, and what we recover or what we save will go to the beneficiaries. The raise you deserve is impossible if the money's being stolen, wasted, or somebody's defrauding you out of it. Increases can come back when those problems are fixed. And the last thing I want to talk with you about is something that, as a lawyer, I find just horrible. I have had to discuss with several people this week these liberal judges sitting in federal district courts, mostly around Washington, D.C. and New York, who have decided for themselves that if somebody who feels upset about something that Donald Trump or Elon Musk is doing, if they bring a lawsuit in court and ask for an injunction that Donald Trump not be allowed to fire people, cut their salaries, cut employees, require people to come to work, require them to answer a questionnaire. Hello, are you still there? Are you really a person? Are you alive? Answer these 5 questions so we know. And the one that really takes the cake is a judge just this weekend issued an order to Donald Trump, the executive branch of government, Department of Homeland Security, ISIS, border, that the Tren de Aragua criminals that had been arrested and were on an airplane and headed back to their home country, that it was illegal for the Trump administration to do that, the judge ruled, and furthermore issued an emergency order that the airplane do a U-turn and bring these criminals back to the United States. Now, as a matter of my upbringing and my training, certainly as a matter of my ethics as a lawyer, I have a great respect for courts and judges. But they all have to operate under the Constitution. The Constitution created 3 branches of government. The legislative, made up of the House and the Senate, the executive, and the judicial. Initially, the judicial branch was just the Supreme Court, but it included any other courts that Congress might create. The executive branch is not the House and Senate, bicameral. The executive branch is not the judicial branch, Supreme Court, courts of appeals, district courts, tax courts, maritime courts, bankruptcy courts. The executive branch of government, according to Article 2 of the Constitution, is one president. The entire executive branch of government is the President of the United States. The entire executive branch of the government is too big for one man. So he gets to appoint, some with Senate approval, some without, requiring Senate approval. He gets to hire. He gets to name and nominate, direct and control the activities of all of the employees of the executive branch of government. The IRS, the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Treasury, and all of the little sub-agencies and everybody that works in every single one of them. They all answer to him. And the United States military, they all answer to him. He controls all of them. He controls them through generals and secretaries and undersecretaries and administrators. But he's the boss. He controls them all. He's in charge. And because they're three equal branches, he can't tell the courts what to do, and he can't tell the Congress what to do. But likewise, they can't tell him what to do. It might be a little hard for you to wrap your mind around, but I want you to think about this for a minute. The courts cannot tell the president what to do. A court can issue an opinion saying, I, the judge, in my opinion, think that what the president is doing is unconstitutional. But they can't control the president. They can't make him do what they say. He either agrees to do what they say or not. And we can't have it both ways. Don't forget, when the court ruled against Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program, an awful lot of Republicans were upset when he just pressed right ahead. This is not my opinion that says that the courts can't tell the president what to do. It's the opinion of the United States Supreme Court. In Meyer versus the United States in 1926, it's the foundational case on presidential hiring and firing. And they ruled that the court struck down, which vests exclusive power in the president. They struck down the attempt of the district courts to dictate to the president his removal decisions. They established that district courts lack jurisdiction to dictate presidential removal decisions. Not my opinion. It's the opinion of the Supreme Court. It is written into the Constitution. The president can't be told to turn an airplane around and fly it back to the United States by some little judge sitting in Washington, D.C. We have to respect his opinion, but it does not dictate to the president how to conduct his job as the executive branch leader. Can you imagine a district court judge overruling a president's directives to a general in the Marines to take action in a foreign place? Can you imagine the courts ruling on military actions? Same thing. The president is the executive branch. You need to get that here, because you're going to be debating people who will recite to you what the judges said. They'll recite to you all the reasons the judges gave. They will say Trump is losing in all these cases, 100 cases, 50 cases, 20 cases, all around the country. Judges are even saying that he can't do it. It's feathers in the wind, folks. You can dismiss all of that argument from these people by citing them to the Supreme Court cases, about a half a dozen of them. Myers, Myers versus United States. Probably the most recent and the most persuasive and the most controlling. So what you've been hearing is a bunch of lies. But that's not what you'll hear here. And as I said the other night, I'm bringing the receipts. So if tomorrow, Monday morning, you're on your way to work and you want to listen to this podcast, just go to Rumble, find the Marcus Carey Perspective, put it on, and just listen to it. You don't have to watch the video part. Get a chance. You want to see these citations. You want to see the cases that I've put up on the screen. You want to see these arguments. Take time to watch it. But more importantly, even if you're listening or if you're watching, please subscribe. Please like these videos. Please share these videos with other people. I'm just getting started. You can see there have been some changes. There will be more changes. And I hope my delivery and my abilities improve and it makes you want to come back more often. But if nothing else, when you come back here, you will be coming back for the truth, because that's the way I see the world. I see the world as truth and lies, black and white, good and evil. And I'm on the side of the truth. And that's the Marcus Carey Perspective.